As a college student, I had the somewhat novel experience of opening the door to my apartment and seeing two armed soldiers. Full camouflage, black beret, AK-47 slung over the shoulder, the whole bit, demanding entrance to my apartment. I was scared. I did what I thought any good American would do, and I started talking about the Constitution. The only thing was, I was in Peru. And those two Peruvian soldiers did not really care about my American Constitution. They cared about the party I was having. That was loud, that had engendered complaints, and that was in clear violation of the city's 1 a.m. curfew. I started talking about the Constitution because it was the only thing I could think of in that situation that would give me some rights. I knew we had something cool and powerful in the United States, something that protected me from government overreach, something that protected individual rights and individual space. But I didn't know how it worked. I certainly didn't know I was presenting a Fourth Amendment argument to two Peruvian soldiers. Like most of us, I had never read the Constitution. Who among us has? Who knows its development, its history, its purpose, its articles, its vocabulary, its amendments? Should that knowledge really be reserved for United States Supreme Court justices, Supreme Court scholars? Or should regular people, people like me, people like you, know at least some of the basics? According to a recent study by Marquette University, 57% of people, 57% of Americans have not read the Constitution. If we're not going to read it, what if we could do what Americans do best and talk to it? What if we could ask it some questions? Or better yet, what if the Constitution could talk to us? What would it say? Let's imagine the conversation. I am the Constitution. I'd like to start off by telling you a few things about myself. I am the oldest and shortest of all national constitutions. I was born at a convention in 1787, September 17th to be exact. I had a long, hot, and sweaty birth, 4 months. And when I was born, some of my writers did not want to sign me without a Bill of Rights. I only had 7 articles when I was born, but my writers were worried about preserving individual rights and protecting individual rights from the government. But my Bill of Rights came later, 4 years later. First things first, I was born to organize. My first and foremost job was to organize the way we are governed. My writers didn't want a monarchy, tyranny, with one person and one person only, making law, enforcing law, interpreting law. Oh no. My writers had a different vision, one that spread law among 3 different and separate branches of government. Each branch of government can do some things, but not do other things. Each branch of government can check the power of another branch. I am about shared power. Some say I am brilliant in that way. In fact, I love sharing so much. I emphasize sharing not just among the 3 different and separate branches of government, but between the federal government and the state government. You see, when I was born, there were only 13 states, and some of them were quite feisty. My writers wanted one document that created a central government that governed us as a whole. We had to have some organization and some agreement, so we have me, the one and only Constitution. And just like power is spread among 3 branches of government, power is also shared between the federal government and the state government. There are some things the federal government can do and some things it can't do. There are some things the state government can do and some things it can't do. States cannot coin money or declare war. There'd be an awful lot of wars. On the other hand, if I haven't given the federal government the specific power to do something, they don't have it. That's in my 10th Amendment. I am the unifier. I make it very clear in Article 6. I say, the Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land. States have to follow me. The federal government has to follow me. All 3 different and separate branches. My writers knew that things would change. So I was written to be flexible. Because, as Thomas Jefferson said, the progress of laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind. So let me tell you about my first 3 articles. It's not that hard. Article 1, the legislative branch. Article 2 is the executive branch. Article 3 is the judicial branch. Article 1, Congress. There are some things Congress can do and some things Congress cannot do. First, I provide for 2 houses. There's a Senate. Those people serve for 6 years. And there's a House of Representatives. Those people serve for 2 years. Every state gets 2 senators, and the number of representatives depends on how many people live in the state. So what can Congress do? Congress can make laws that affect us across state lines. Think post office. Think railroad. So Congress can lay and collect taxes, regulate commerce with foreign nations, coin money, raise and support armies, declare war, impeach and remove the president. What about what Congress cannot do? Congress can't take away some very substantial rights, fundamental rights. Congress can't take away your right to examine the constitutionality of your prison sentence, habeas corpus. Congress can't make something illegal after it's already happened. If it's legal to smoke pot today, you can't get in trouble for it tomorrow. That would be an ex post facto law. Congress cannot just spend money. They need an appropriations law. And Congress can never grant a title of nobility. My writers did not want a monarchy. Article 2, the executive branch. The president is commander-in-chief of our armed forces. What can the president do? The president can grant pardons for offenses against the United States. The president can enter into treaties with foreign nations. The president can appoint the Supreme Court justices with the advice and consent of the Senate. There are even some things I say the president has to do. There are some shalls in there. The president shall give the State of the Union address. The president shall take an oath of office to uphold me. And the president shall be removed for treason, bribery, high crimes, and misdemeanors. But it's Congress that does that. What about what the president can't do? The president can't make law. That's Congress. The president can't declare war. That's Congress. The president can't just spend money. That's Congress. The president cannot interpret the law. That's our judicial branch. So on to our judicial branch. Here comes the judges. The independence of our judiciary is key to me. It's key. And I start off talking about the Supremes, the United States Supreme Court in all its glory. I also provide for some lower and inferior federal courts, and I explain very simply what they can decide. They can decide issues that cross state lines. Think post office, think railroads. They can decide issues concerning me, the Constitution. They can resolve disputes between citizens of different states. Now, let me let you in on a secret, a love affair. Well, it's actually not so secret. Early on, the Supreme Court decided that they and they alone would be able to interpret me. They decided by themselves that they're the last word on me. Only they can interpret me. It's a love affair. We're close. You might say we're exclusive. Not only are they the only ones to decide on me and what I mean, but they get to decide if all the other laws out there, all the different states and the federal laws, comport with me. If those laws are constitutional, according to what I say. That's their judicial review. They're powerful. But Article 3 isn't just about our Supremes. It's about people judging other people. It's about the right to a jury. I clearly state in Article 3, all crimes shall be tried by a jury. And that trial should take place in the same place where the crime was allegedly committed. Now, let's talk about our Bill of Rights. Americans, you love your rights. Rights this, rights that. You love this about me. Here's the thing. Remember when I was born in 1787? My writers didn't want to sign me because they were so concerned, some of them, they were so concerned about a monarchy. They were concerned about individual rights and putting limits on the government. So that's the thing. My Bill of Rights is about freedom from the government. It doesn't protect you against private companies, private entities, private employers, private citizens. It doesn't protect you from one another. It's about freedom only from the government. Let's talk about my First Amendment. This is one of your favorites. Most of you know this one. You know that under the First Amendment, speech, religion, and assembly is protected. What is speech? Well, speech can mean wearing a black armband to protest the Vietnam War. Speech can mean burning an American flag. Speech can mean marching, protests, chanting. Speech can mean things we don't want to hear. Speech can include hate speech. All that's protected under my First Amendment. What about what speech is not? Speech is not violence. Speech is not breaking into private property, breaking into public property, scaling the walls of the Capitol, breaking windows, using a flagpole as a battering ram, pummeling police officers, beating people up. That is not speech. January 6th, the violence of January 6th was not speech. So let's talk about how the First Amendment works. Colin Kaepernick, remember him? He took a knee on the football field to protest police brutality. So brave. Did he get rehired by the San Francisco 49ers? Nope. Did he get rehired by any team in the National Football League? Nope. Are the San Francisco 49ers the government? No. Is the National Football League the government? No, at least not yet. So Colin Kaepernick's First Amendment rights were not violated. There was no government action. What about Facebook? Remember them? Facebook can take things off of Facebook. Is Facebook the government? No, at least not yet. So Facebook is not infringing on your First Amendment rights. Same thing goes with Twitter. Having a dispute with Twitter? Did you get cut off? Well, you might have a lot to say about that, but keep me out of it. I've got nothing to do with it. You could call your congressman, you could call your senator, maybe try to get something started in Congress. There's a legislature for that. But the First Amendment and the Constitution, we're out. We've got nothing to do with it. My other amendments are equally fierce about protecting individual rights. It's amazing when you read my Bill of Rights. You can see how concerned my writers were with absolute power. And you feel kind of lucky that you're lucky to have had them looking out for you. They were especially concerned with abuses of power when it came to criminal matters. I protect you from unreasonable search and seizure. I protect you from trumped-up criminal charges with no proof and no witnesses. I protect you from secret trials. I protect you from testifying against yourself. I protect you from being tried for the same thing over and over and over. I protect you in my Bill of Rights from the government. But I'm not perfect. There are parts of me I'm ashamed of. For one thing, I was written by the founding fathers. There were no mothers, there were no women at all. There were no poor people. Forget about poor people. There were no people that didn't own property. Although when I was written, I was the most inclusive in the world. There were no black people, no brown people. There were no people native to this land: Iroquois, Navajo, Sioux, Chippewa, Narragansett, Pueblo. And my writers, some of my writers owned slaves. There's nothing in me. There's no mention of slavery directly. I do not contain the word slavery, but I had 5 clauses that dealt with slavery. I was one big compromise on slavery. I even had something called the Fugitive Slave Clause, which required states to return a slave searching for freedom back to the owner. But I've been changed. You know, I can be changed, right? I mean, first there was my Bill of Rights in 1791, those 10 amendments, and then I have a total of 27 amendments. And some of my amendments are pretty good. One of my favorites is prohibition of slavery, 13th Amendment, right after the Civil War. Then, it took about 100 years, but then the poll taxes were outlawed, so you can all vote for free. The 14th Amendment was also passed just after the Civil War, and the 14th Amendment guarantees due process and equal protection of the law for everyone, all races. My amendments gave women the right to vote. They put in place prohibition, took it away. My amendments show how you change, how you develop. I can be changed. I even include directions on how to change me. I know nobody likes to read directions, but it's just one short paragraph in Article 5. It's not that hard. 2/3 of Congress can propose an amendment, or 2/3 of state legislatures can call a convention. and propose an amendment. Then it goes out to you, the states, to be ratified. Over 11,000 amendments have been proposed. Only 37 have gone on for the ratification process, and only 27 have become actual amendments. So maybe it's not easy, but it's possible. I can be changed. I can be amended. So most of you haven't read me. I'm short. I can fit in your pocket. I'm about 4 pages, and I take about a half an hour to read. Now that we've had this time together, you've gotten to know me, maybe you could give me a chance. Maybe you could take a half an hour. Open me up, open your pocket Constitution up, and give me a read. I have to admit, though, I'm not everything. I can't be all things to all people. I've got nothing to do with masks and vaccines, okay? Nothing. But I am powerful. I am potent. I reflect your values. I can be changed. So take one small step to be an informed citizen. One small step to be part of an informed citizenry. Give me a chance. Read me. Thank you.